sleepless nights I lay awake, thinking about the future while you lie in bed. I'm getting cake rolling.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm your host Jordan Kurtz. I'm here today with a very special guest, the one and only Carm the Charm. How you doing today, Carm?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for taking the time today to join us.
It's my pleasure. It's good to be here. I've heard a lot of your podcasts and I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you very much. I've definitely always appreciated our conversations and all of your positivity along the way, so thank you.
Yeah, staying positive is the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So, Carm, real quick for everybody that's out there following along, why don't you let them know where they can follow you on social media?
Well, my Twitter is Carmen Sage. I'm at Carmen the Charm. And my Instagram as well as my Facebook is just Carmen Sage.
Okay, awesome. What about sponsors, management, anybody out there you want to shout out?
Yeah, I would love to give a shout out to Rocky Mountain Taco. They have actually been with me from the beginning, as well as Colorado Meat Company and Spirit Way Wellness, and most recently Phantom Fireworks and Comments from the Peanut Gallery.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thank you also to ASTR Sports out there. So
yes.
They've been huge in putting together a lot of the media opportunities that Comments from the Peanut Gallery has had. So thank you, Jim. You're the man. Appreciate you.
Jim is the man for sure.
Yeah.
Very grateful.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's always great to have great people around you.
Mm-hmm.
You can never have enough of a positive circle, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree. You are who you surround yourself with.
You're correct in that. Well, that's where I feel like everybody here is in such a great position, because I became such a better person since I've been around here all the time.
Right.
Because everybody's pushing towards something, and in that it holds me accountable that in order to be my best or to show your best, it just all has to keep on building upon each other.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're slated to fight for LFA this next week, actually. God,
yeah,
it's
I
flying.
know.
It's crept up so fast. But how does it feel? Basically, 1 year anniversary for your MMA debut,
right?
Which I was there, just got to see the first one. but yeah. So how does it feel? Basically, a year coming back and fighting in front of your hometown crowd.
Yeah, it's just a blessing is really the only way I can describe it. You really do manifest what you want to happen. Fights in Vail was never a thing, growing up there, or even the years before me getting into MMA. And ironically, my sister is dating someone on the council in Vail, and he just brought it up as kind of a fun thing that the locals would enjoy on off season. And it kind of escalated from there. So all it takes is just an idea, and when you think about it so many times, when it actually happens, it's just manifestation at that point.
That's
and
true.
I just can't believe it's reoccurring, and it must have been a big enough hit in Vail to come back.
Yeah.
And I know the locals really enjoyed it, because at that point all the tourists have left, and it's just what else is there to do when the mountain's closed?
Yeah, that's true. I was kind of surprised when I ate at the tavern the night of the fights, and just walking through that center portion of Vail, I've never seen it empty like that. It's always just been people everywhere. It was like a ghost town.
It is.
With everything shut down for those couple of weeks. Yeah, it was, because it was it was the middle of the day. I was just trying to walk around and find a bite to eat before going into the arena, and it's well, shit. There's nothing here besides the steakhouse.
Yes, and most things are closed. Gas stations are open and select restaurants for the locals, but for the most part, all the locals will leave during mud season, is what we call it, and they just go vacation because they've worked their asses off over a long period of a long winter, especially this last one. Very, very plentiful season.
Okay.
And it'll be interesting to see who turns up. If they, were just hanging around in spring for all that water to run off and do the spring sports.
Yeah, I'm sure well, there's a lot of moisture this year, so probably going to be a lot of runoff that way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, with this coming up close, there's been some adversity. throughout the last few weeks for that matter.
Definitely.
Anyway, because you're supposed to be on the St. Patty's beatdown that was out there.
Right.
And then just kind of one thing led to another, and here we are.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what that path has looked like?
Yeah, I've had multiple fights like just not happen and fall through for different reasons, and my health being one of those reasons, and just being a really smart fighter when it comes to, your health is your wealth ultimately, and if you want longevity in this sport that requires so much persistence and patience, and you just have to be smart about your body, especially your head.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's part of the game. I feel like it's gonna happen, but you seem like you've maintained that positive spirit about yourself. I always gotta say you're one of the most positive people that I've ever been around, and never out there has there been a bad picture taken of Carmen.
Well, I don't know about that, but that's very sweet of you. Thank you, Jordan. It's just kind of who you are, and one of my favorite quotes is just don't let the world beat you down. Just maintain that radiance that you've always had, that you were born with. As a kid, you don't know hate. You don't know racism, you don't know sex, you prejudice, nothing. You just know happiness and laughter and love and light, and it is fucking hard. Sorry, I'm confessing.
No, yeah, you're good to go. You're good.
It's hard to maintain that throughout life, but through the ups and the downs, I've really, especially every fight camp, I experienced so much adversity that it teaches me to be so grateful for what I do have. The most struggle is when I gain the most gratitude. And maybe that's why we do all this,
right.
And just as humans, I think we need it.
Well, that's definitely fair, So, Carm, you're a jiu-jitsu specialist. Would you say that? And then the striking has grown along.
For sure. Yeah.
It's which is just crazy because here you have just this sweet, super positive personality, always super upbeat, and then you see her out on the mat and she gets a limb and it's like game over.
Yeah, I think life has a balance for sure, and if you can find that balance, I just, people are like, why are you so happy all the time and go lucky? And it's because I get to punch my best friends in the face and rip their arms off. And I just, it's that outlet. Everyone's got to have it. And I have luckily found mine, especially through jiu-jitsu, because, each and every day I have such an appreciation of the beauty of its majestic chess match between two people and their limbs. And, the more you know, the better you are kind of thing. The more dedicated you are, the more it will show, no matter what. There is no cheating that. The nicest people I've ever met are jiu-jitsu practitioners.
Martial artists as a whole, just
for sure.
I feel like, especially here, the culture is so strong, and what Coach Mark and Jared have done has been so great for the collective good of the team, that there's not the negative energy. There's not that, like cancer in the locker room, if you will,
right.
Like that person who brings that sort of, bad energy that draws away from everybody else.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like having, but also like you said, you have that outlet of that primal aggression, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So that's why I always feel like martial artists are some of the nicest people that I've ever met. Like
yes.
people always have this, like they're a fighter
Stigma
sort of
almost.
stigma, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, but it's not. And I just feel like if someone were to have that sort of personality and they were to, to come through the doors of Factory X, like they're not gonna last.
Yeah.
Someone who has that sort of attitude, you're not gonna have that longevity like you spoke of earlier.
Right. Absolutely.
This game will humble you fast too.
Yes, it will. Yeah, and there's no cheating it. So that's kind of my favorite part about it. There's always something to learn.
Right.
and anyone can teach you something, you know. A white belt could teach you something, really. Ultimately, they might have just learned it, and you could have forgotten it from years past. So, you know, being humble is the best policy, honestly.
I couldn't agree with you more there. You know, and it's been crazy to see the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of people posting like the throwback pics of the gym since the construction has just gotten complete.
Right.
I mean, you've been here for a while now too, to have seen just even the growth of the last, you know, couple of years for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how does that feel to, you know, you literally just doubled the floor space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've been a part of that change. What's that feel like?
It kind of came organically, really. It was just, you know, day by day the mats would just fill up every square inch, and then there was nowhere else to go but expand. It just made the most sense, and like that whole manifestation, I know Mark, there's no way he didn't manifest that, you know, and is probably still manifesting more to come. You know,
if I know the general right, the next move is already being planned.
Right,
you know
just
what I mean?
chess match for life, and
Yep.
you know, it's when you get complacent is where you kind of fuck up.
That's truth. No, you couldn't be any more accurate with that statement.
Yeah, it's been a blessing to see this place. Like, I'm grateful I came in when I did, so I have that appreciation for what it is now, and appreciation for who Mark is as a person to make that happen, because it does require so much sacrifice on mostly his family's end and himself, you know. It's a beautiful thing, that family, that they're all in this together and they are so supportive of one another. It's basically like a hierarchy of what you would think a perfect family is. Of course, no one's perfect, and behind closed doors anything could be happening, but it is like so great. I can't even describe how great it is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how fortunate I feel to come from here, from there to here, and it's awesome.
Just feels like everybody is one big family here. You know what I mean? Like, ever since I started coming around and really getting heavily involved with things within the last few months, like, it's like being part of the family.
Right.
Like, feel like that's my role within the team, and I'm ready to play my position. You know
Right,
what I mean?
for
like,
sure.
Like, so I love it. I can't say anything but the highest positive remarks, or whatever you want to call it, for everybody here at Factory X, especially the Montoya family.
Yeah. I completely
So
agree.
I have to ask you, what got you into the herb business? We, you know, started off with jiu-jitsu, right? So, but what even got you into that at that point?
Right. It all starts with a guy, right? No. I actually, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, maybe 2.5, I was mugged in a parking garage.
Shit.
I was out drinking with my friends in Vail Village, and I went to the garage and just to get some gloves because it was so cold out. It was almost Christmas, and I heard, I wouldn't say I got mugged really. I heard a scuffle and like some like shouts, and I ran over to see what was going on, and this guy had hit this woman, and me being drunk and just, of course, like, it hits a switch for anyone, maybe anyone decent. And I just started screaming at him, and he turned around, he hit me, and I just hit the ground, and all of his friends were like, oh shit. None of them spoke a lick of like English, so it was all, you know, Spanish tourists, and they went running, and I just woke up the next day and I was just like, God, that could have ended up a lot worse. And how cool would it be to actually learn some kind of self-defense?
Right.
So, flash forward a couple weeks later, I was working at a coffee shop, a local coffee shop, and one of my locals came in, Dwayne, who is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He was like, you gotta meet this guy. He's starting his own jiu-jitsu gym, basically from his hands up. And I think you'd really like him. I think you guys would really click. And his name is Hayward the Hybrid Charles. He's actually a professional MMA fighter. So I went and I checked out his gym when it was just being built. I came around the corner, and it was really love at first sight. You know, I I immediately fell for him and he fell for me, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, getting to like learn jiu-jitsu from this man who was at the time, you know, champion in Hero FC in Texas, and very at the top of his career, the height of his career at that point, you know, building his own jiu-jitsu gym. I thought it was so inspiring. I took my first jiu-jitsu class with him, and I was hooked, you know, immediately. Coming from a background of dance, 13 years, it intrigued me, and I had to get more of it. So I became very dedicated. And then maybe 3 months later, I did my first tournament, and I actually got gold, just in the gi. And then a few months later at Fight to Win, I got another gold, and then another one, and then I started doing no-gi.
You sound like DJ Khaled over here. Another one.
Another one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got like 5 golds, and then I cornered Hayward for his first MMA fight. It was actually against Ian Heinisch.
Okay.
Who was the main event for Sparta Combat League. It was at the Denver Coliseum. And it was the first MMA fight I've ever even been to. And I ended up cornering Hayward when he was the main event. And so I didn't even know what MMA was, really, you know?
Yeah,
and,
a lot of unknowns.
Right. And I cornered Hayward, and it was honestly to this day the bloodiest fight I've ever seen. It was, and Ian will even, you know, we look back on it just like, wow, that's, you know, something crazy to witness, especially for your first fight. And you're like right there, and you're having to corner the guy, and Hayward just got lit up by elbows and lost a decision to Ian. And, you know, when they say when fighters fight each other, their souls touch, and they became friends after that. And at that point, I was kind of running the gym for Hayward. It's called Hybrid Nation MMA. And I asked Ian to come and do a wrestling seminar. And that's where Ian and I first connected. I had seen him in passing, perhaps at like grappling tournaments, at Fight to Win tournaments. And then after his seminar, we kept in touch, and he'd come over to train maybe a little bit whenever he'd be in Vail. And he really told me how much potential I had, and just begged me just to come to Factory X, just try it out for 1 week, please, just talk to my coach. And I eventually did, and Mark was like, I'm sure he gave the speech to everyone who, you know, first started and eager to show and prove themselves and be like, I want to be on the fight team.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's all about the right fit. I'll always remember this. You know, if I'm the right fit as a coach, if this gym is the right fit, it's all about that. And that's where this 1 week is going to prove itself. You know, if you really like it, this 1 week will show you what it's all about and what you're getting yourself into. I loved it, of course.
Yeah.
So in the fall of 2017, I think, I decided to move here. I lived out of my car for a while, just training at Factory X. And then I got a job at Kaladi Coffee. Shout out to Kaladi Coffee, the best coffee shop in Denver.
It is pretty good. You know, that mocha was pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
And they have been just so supportive. It's kind of what got me the job is, hey, I dropped everything to move here to pursue this crazy dream of being an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
And they worked with my schedule. You know, the schedule itself for Factory X fighters is so demanding. You're training morning and night. So everything kind of fell into place.
Yeah.
And I moved in with a couple of the fighters at the gym, and they became my family. I have multiple families, I would say. I have my real family, I have my friends that are family, I have my Kaladi Coffee family, and I have my gym family. And each one of them plays such a big role in who I am as a person. Like I said earlier, you know, you are who you surround yourself with, so you just have to choose wisely. And I'm grateful for my choices.
Well, it's obviously working out so far.
Yes, absolutely. Hard work pays off.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's evident just by, you know, the growth that you've had as a competitor alone within the last year. You know, I mean, so you mentioned having a background in dance. You know, so there's been other women in MMA that have had a background in dance that have talked about that and have spoke to, feeling like that's part of an advantage, footwork wise, that sort of thing, like
Right.
Paige Van Zandt. Do you feel like that has kind of helped you with some of your movements? Because, striking is kind of a weird sequence of movement,
Right.
when you have to switch stances up, all that sort of stuff. But if you're already used to that kind of hip coordination, how does that benefit you? Do you think that that's been an asset?
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, they say that dancers have more mirror neurons than anyone else because it's the neurons in your brain where you watch something and then you can replicate it right away. And it's just with choreography, I kind of thought of fighting as choreography, and I tried to mimic exactly as they were doing it. And it's helped me for the most part, I would say. And the flexibility, especially in jiu-jitsu, is just outstanding. Of course, everything has its pros and its cons. Sometimes I feel a little too loosey-goosey rather than tight, and but I'm sure that will come in time as I gain belts and just put more work in.
Right.
But yeah, flexibility probably is the number one.
That's
Kicks and...
Yeah. That's where most people, I feel like, including myself, are kind of lacking out there in the world.
Yeah, that is one thing.
And I found out that flexibility is something that you lose fast.
So fast.
So, just through the fall, I had made it a big priority to be stretching a lot and staying limber that way. But I didn't really stretch as much through the winter months. And then when it came to getting back into going through some of those same stretching routines,
Right.
Oh no, this range of motion is nowhere near what it was a couple of months ago.
It goes away pretty quick.
And it went fast. Yes, so working back into that portion, but yeah, I was like, oh man. Yep, hamstrings are definitely way tighter than they were a couple weeks ago. Yep.
It's like a chore almost. If you want it to be successful, you just have to keep at it every day, before and after practice.
And especially for someone who isn't the biggest fan of stretching, it really is a job. But
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna keep going. This is just in case this is right on the camera. That way it doesn't stop.
Okay.
No, that flexibility is definitely something that I feel like can always be improved for the most part, or at least for me anyway. I don't know if I'll ever be at a point in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm as limber as I can be, anything like that. But I also feel like, though, to a certain extent, a lot of the movements that we kind of get ingrained into, traditional lifting or that sort of stuff, or just going on a run, well, that puts you in a very one track plane of motion, if you will, versus having that full flexibility, that entire range of motion, especially within your hip joint. Really, if you're doing a lot of heavy squats and all of that, without the stretching, you tend to be very much in that one track, that one plane of motion.
Right.
As opposed to in this game, you need to be able to have that strength, that explosiveness, the flexibility, the durability too, in every different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think that that's really kind of been an asset too, being, especially in dance, you're in every different position that you could possibly be?
Just with injury, the more you stretch those dynamic stability muscles. So if you do rely on just a singular dominant muscle that you use for lifting or for kicking, or your hip flexors are, the ones that you use the most, if you tear that, or that becomes just injured, everything else has to compensate. And if they're not stretched or even worked, then the injury could last longer per se.
Correct. Now you guys do a very dynamic set of one just warm-ups in general, and then your strength and conditioning routine with Landau Performance. How has that helped you going to a world-class facility like that and training with that facility, that facility alone, plus the staff and everybody that they have to offer?
Oh God, it's amazing. I definitely brag about it for sure.
6 a.m. sometimes are early, but
Yeah, and you just gotta do it. It's such a great way to start out your day, 6 to 7 a.m. and then I work 8 to 3, and then I come back here for technique. you know, and lifting, just they really are always improving by educating themselves and getting more and more licenses and tests done, and they never really stop because in their world education is always growing. It's constantly improving. You have to keep up with it. Shout out to Augie. He is a
Love you,
great
Augie.
coach. Seriously, very motivational, and will always tell it how it is. And that is one thing I really respect about him, because even as people, regardless of if you're a coach or not, right? It's hard to say how you feel or the truth, or tell someone how it really is, what they need to hear. And, you know, Mark is one of those kind of people. Just tell you how it is. I can't tell you. It means so much. I hate sugarcoating anything, because the more you do that, the more you have a false sense of what our culture is, what reality really is. Like, stop making things taboo.
Right.
And that kind of personality is really why I gravitate towards that. So being at Landau's is just, it puts in perspective, you know, what the elite is in strength and conditioning. And, you know, gotta be grateful to be a part of that and to be known in that community even.
Right.
And see myself get better every week. You know, 6 a.m. is so hard, and most days you wake up and you're just like, maybe I can skip it this week, but no.
Right.
You know, your opponent's doing just the same or even harder. So,
Exactly.
in theory, right?
So usually, you know, especially I would say training at some place like Landau and just here in Denver across the board is kind of an advantage just based on the altitude.
Right.
But, you know, to address the elephant in the room on that side of things, Vail's higher than us.
Oh,
Right here as we sit right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's every time that I think about some of the cards and some of the, you know, little mountain towns and all of that, it's like they always talk about like different weight classes or how they book fights in the different areas.
Yeah.
But just like, you know, Vail is a very high elevation. You could tell the last time guys that weren't from Colorado
They
or
felt it.
didn't train around here, if you will, you could tell that alone from the First Bank Center in January when LFA was here.
Right.
Much less in Vail the last time. You know, you could really kind of tell within some of those fights the guys who weren't training at elevation.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, honestly, what the elevation difference would be between Mexico City, even, and Vail. And if Vail's higher, you know, it's got to be up there.
If not very close, very, very similar, I would have to imagine. And they did a heavyweight fight there in the UFC that time.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, so you're going to have a hip. You've talked all along about stamina, the safety, all those sorts of things. Then you go and put heavyweights in Mexico City. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't work. It's not going to work.
But hey, crazier things have happened, I guess.
And they won't have to worry about the weight cut in theory, right? So
Right.
they can.
I just learned something that was a crazy thing that they were talking about the other day about some of the potential matchups or bookings that they were looking at doing with the heavyweight division.
Okay.
I believe New York has it as a rule, and I think Oregon does too. It was Chael that was talking about it on Bad Guy Eek.
Okay.
But that there is in certain states where there's a 40-pound like gap rule. So like say, you know, if you know you're off by 40 pounds from each other, then the commission won't sanction it. But
Interesting.
it's also interesting to say that, well, you guys created the divisions, so if someone is, you know, 210 and there's someone who's pushing the limit at 265, they won't make that fight in that state,
Right.
according to what was being said with this. So they said, you know, what would be the case of someone who, you know, is like, and he used a couple of wrestlers, for example, and then boxers also.
Right.
But so Kurt Angle, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that name or not. So he was a former Olympic gold medalist wrestler.
Okay.
And then he was for a long time, he made his fame in the WWE.
Okay.
But he won at heavyweight at, you know, like 209 pounds, something like that. So he was a very, very small heavyweight.
Right.
And that's when I think the heavyweight, if I could be mistaken on the weight pound limit, but I think it goes up to 285.
Okay.
And so there's that big of a gap, and he still won.
Wow.
So, but then like Mike Tyson, who was a smaller heavyweight overall in comparison, same thing with Evander Holyfield, even when he bumped up to heavyweight, juiced to the gills, but still a small heavyweight.
Yeah.
Or even today, Deontay Wilder, his last fight was like 211, something like that, in a heavyweight fight. So someone like that who just decides, well, I don't want to have to deal with cutting or getting down to 205. I just want to fight at my natural weight. You're not going to make that fight. Right? That's where it just, when the commission gives you that, because they say, well, what if then he's this weight naturally, 212, and then you have Francis who has to cut down to 265, or Brock who has to cut to 265. But you still created the division.
Yeah.
And it was to my understanding that anybody who weighs more than 206 pounds but less than 266 is all in the same division.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do I know, right?
No, I wholeheartly agree with where you're going with that, honestly. I mean, especially with heavyweights, it could be to your advantage to weigh heavier. The heavier, the better, because of the power. But if you can't sustain that power, then it's really on that fighter. It's not even up to anyone else.
Yeah, so I don't get it, especially when they dictated the divisions. So then if you're going to have that rule, then why not then, okay, you want to have that 40-pound benchmark, create a 225 then.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, or, it's hard to guarantee anything in the MMA world, but I think you're very hard-pressed to find anybody that would beat Stipe at 225.
So true.
I think that if you created that 225 and that was the line, I don't know that anybody beats him at that. And I think, I think that he just happened to unfortunately get clipped in the DC fight.
Yeah.
Because I think that he was winning that fight to that point, and DC just happened to his credit, he said that he noticed that tendency when coming out of a clinch that there was an opening for a right hand. He caught one opportunity that was there. Did you take advantage of it? Absolutely. But if he didn't have all the power that he has at 253 pounds, does that same sort of knockout blow come?
Yeah, I hear you, for sure.
I mean, I may be in left field thinking that.
No way. The real question is, because fights, that's why we love fighting, because anything could happen just like that. But my question is, why haven't we seen Stipe return yet? It's been well long enough, in my opinion. I think he deserved an immediate redemption from that fight, and we still haven't seen him. So, I mean, that's the real question for me. I love Stipe as a fighter and as a person. You just can't help but like the guy.
Well, that's where I say, I mean, who knows what goes on behind closed doors, relationships with matchmakers, management, all that sort of thing, to not say too much on those things. But you wonder, even up to this point, how the UFC wasn't just all in on marketing Stipe as the historically great and dominant champion that he really is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking all the things that they're trying to put out there for centerpieces to market, well, he's an American hero. He's American hero. He's a wholesome, blue collar American hero. The guy is a first responder still. He's still fighting fires out there in Ohio.
What?
How are you not playing up on that angle with the story that you're trying to tell? And how many people out there still don't know that that's a part of the story? There's a lot of casual fans out there, and it's getting more and more with the growth of the ESPN platform in MMA.
Oh yeah.
But how is that not something that you're pushing big time?
Yeah.
You start to then play on the heartbeat of America, if you will. You play on that angle of it, and I don't understand. I don't get it, because to me, it's a knockout of the park. It's a home run that you have that is organically there.
Yeah.
You're not having to, juice something up with outlandish drama
Yes.
and throwing dollies through windows and all
Right.
that. Like, this is a real story that you can pitch and that you can market and do well to gain fans with that base of America. But you're not, for whatever reason. So I don't know what that reason is.
I think it's that like stigma of how exciting sells. It does, and people want to have someone to hate like Connor or Mayweather, right? They market that because you just want to be like, I'm gonna watch that fight just to see that motherfucker get knocked out cold.
Exactly.
And what if they did change it up though? Would it still, the numbers still remain the same if they marketed Stipe as the hero he is? Or even Amanda Nunes, just
Right. How do they not play that one up?
She is
the only
phenomenal.
thing that I can halfway see is she may be a little bit harder for some of the media opportunities just because of the language barrier.
Right.
However, you don't have that with Stipe. You don't.
Yeah.
And furthermore, Stipe is the epitome of what America is. It's the land of opportunity. He's the son of immigrants. That's came over here, that have made a life in blue collar America, that have ascended to the highest of the high in what they do.
Right.
Like I say, I just don't understand that. And in Amanda's case as well, they don't really market Amanda, but she's the best female that's ever fought.
Yeah.
At this point. And I at first was kind of skeptical because the first, when her and Valentina fought,
or even
and the second
Rousey.
time,
It was, you were like, oh, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rousey's striking isn't all that good, and she kind of neglected that. But then
she beat Misha, and then retires Misha. And then she's just gone on a tear since. All respect to Raquel Pennington for lasting as long as she did in that fight.
That girl's fucking tough.
Tough. Oh my
So
God,
tough.
is she tough. The heart that she had in that fight.
Yes.
Phenomenal. But then, to see what she did to Cyborg, call it maybe a little bit of carelessness on Cyborg's side of things, because we haven't really seen Cyborg come out with that shoot the box aggression the way that she had in earlier years of her career. She came out throwing bombs right away, as opposed to being a little bit more calculated like she was in the Holly fight.
Right.
But I think that there was just that kind of that bitterness and aggression between the two of them. For one, in general, a lot of times, Brazilians will not like to fight Brazilians if they don't have to. Or will definitely not engage in, the smack talk back and forth.
For sure.
But those two had bad blood. And some of just I think it was the UFC that put out the clip, but it was Cyborg standing there in one of the conference rooms of the hotel, and Amanda comes walking in, and they were playing the Biggie song "What's Beef" in the background.
Oof.
And it's just the cold just stare down between the two of them from across the room. I was I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. But yeah, I just remember I was oh man. And full disclosure, I was 100% on board saying, oh no, Cyborg is going to absolutely just tear through her.
Murk her. Yeah.
But I was wrong.
Oh my God. Everyone was wrong. Who was right? Tell me, except for her coaches probably.
Right.
Because they're fuck, I'm not surprised. We've done this so many times. Shock the world, take two belts.
Legit grappler, heavy-handed, would have to go to specialist tournaments just to get competition. I didn't think that Amanda had. I didn't think that she was going to have enough power moving up 10 pounds.
Right.
To do that to Cyborg, especially because it's hard for Chris to get to 45.
Yeah.
And especially she's had some help in the past, obviously.
Right.
Some of those sort of things like that lean mass, when you continue to train that stays. There's some of those things that have the lingering effects
For a very long time.
Right.
It just stays in your system, your blood, your tissue, and...
And that's where, to kind of tie back with Stipe and maybe not getting that's been the Brock introduction this whole time, or the tease of Brock being back.
Right.
Whether or not that happens, who knows? Dana says they haven't been talking, which I don't believe in the slightest, because anytime Dana says that, oh no, there's nothing like this going on, I haven't even talked to him, and he's talked to him, he probably just got done talking to him for that matter, so it's come on Dana, We've heard this a little bit now at this point. But somebody like Brock, though, a decade worth of being on gear, I don't give a shit if you're off for 6 months to clear the USADA pool. You're still 100% reaping the benefits of that substance that you took throughout that
Absolutely.
time. Whether it's, I mean, just think alone the skeletal transformation
Yeah.
that someone who's been on for that long. Like, I mean, Brock looks like somebody who, like when Rogan talked about it, when I think it was the Kane fight, he said 1,000 years ago, the only time you saw a guy like this was when he was coming off of a ship or coming out horseback.
Right.
Like that was like, he
Straight
already
up
has
Viking
the
shit.
natural Viking look,
Uh-huh.
but then through the years, like, his brows just became even more pronounced. Like, those little things along those lines, bone density increase. He had massive hands as it was.
Yeah.
But to then have that much more added to it, all those micro fractures through training, all through the years, and then just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. As you know from just grapplers that you've been around, you see somebody who's been through it for years, how giant their appendages are.
Yes.
That's his entire body.
Right.
That's everything that's grown.
Yeah, he is a scary human.
He's been on the shit that gives your eyebrows muscles.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
I don't know if he'll come back. I don't know if he will.
I saw a video of him training in a wrestling room not that long ago online, and he looked significantly smaller from what he had been. And I don't really follow WWE, but
Right.
I'll see all the updates when they do like WrestleMania and that stuff. And supposedly he lost, so it's kind of like falling in like the storyline.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think DC is hoping that he still comes back because
Money.
that's a huge money fight.
Oh yeah.
It's a very, very big opportunity for him that way. Even though I have a hard time as a real true hardcore fan getting on board with that. I don't know
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah.
Especially because, to me, like, a title fight means something. And to say that you're robbing Stipe of that chance, someone who did everything the right way, to then Brock, who hasn't won in more than 8 years. And I don't count the Mark Hunt fight as a win by any means because he was juiced to the tits in that fight. Like, he was in that, like, you see him in the weigh-in photo, and you're like, oh my God, I feel terrible for Mark Hunt.
Yeah.
And they let that cheating motherfucker go out there and fight. Like, oh no, we're just going to give you the exemption clause. Like, you don't have to go through the pool or don't do any of that.
It's
Like,
ridiculous.
the guy came off the WrestleMania stage to the UFC stage.
Yeah.
Or, I guess WrestleMania's in March, that was in July, but all of a couple of months difference.
Yeah.
He still had everything in his system,
Yeah.
which he ended
It's
up
hard to be a fan
testing
of that.
out. Yeah.
Really is.
I can't get on board. I find it hard to get on board for that fight. Just because I don't think it's earned.
Yeah. As a true fan, you know the backstory of it.
Right.
But as a superficial fan, you'd be like, oh, big name, gonna be a good fight, I'm gonna buy that one.
Right. I would love to see John fight Brock. Just
Be
because
crazy.
it's a little bit more maybe a little bit more of a challenge just because John has to go up so
Right,
large,
right,
if you will,
right. I hear you.
weight difference. But DC's natural weight is heavyweight. DC has never lost a round at heavyweight. DC has never lost a fight to somebody not named John Jones.
Yeah.
I don't think it is natural weight that's a good matchup for Brock. Because when
Yeah.
you're talking about levels within the game too, yeah, Brock was a national champion, Division I. Definitely gets his due respect as far as having a legit combat sports background.
Yeah.
DC was an Olympian.
Why does he get such a bad rep? I don't get it.
DC?
Yeah.
See, I'll be honest, Carm, I used to hate DC. I used to
Really?
hate on DC a lot. But it was because I was such a big John Jones fan.
I know.
Like, that was...
It's funny how those go hand in hand.
And it's like, it's kind of through time shifted a little bit. I still like John, don't get me wrong, but there's just also, I 100% acknowledge the asterisk next to John's name.
Right.
And that's where with DC, it's been a shift for me because I've just had to tell myself, how can you hate on this guy who's only done everything right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy
Who tried to play the villain,
right,
so he could get more sales and get people to pay attention to him more and get those money fights, but it was unsuccessful because we all know you're not like a bad guy, DC.
But it kind of worked though too, I would say.
Right.
Like because
They made a fair portion of money, I'm sure, off of both those fights.
is even in their feud, like people kept on still holding, even after John popped multiple times. Like John was still kind of like the golden child, or held in the good light. And so then when they were at the one press conference with each other, and like he threw the water bottle at him backstage, and then he's just like, he's a bitch, like you fucking junkie, like saying all those things across the stage, telling him, oh yeah, well, you did that after a weekend of sandblasting hookers and cocaine, like just saying all those crazy one-liners.
Yeah.
And so like DC does play the heel role well. I mean, he's a WWE fan, self-admittedly himself, so he loves that pro wrestling kind of angle and taking it. But I think he recognized that that's kind of where he had to go with it, because him trying to be the good guy, or him trying to be the like, well, I'm not getting caught for this, I'm not doing it, that didn't work for him.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what they tried to say, with him and John initially, and all he did was get shit on.
Yeah.
So then he starts, all right, well, I'm going to play up the angle. I'm going to talk a little smack. I'm going to make sure that, what, people may not like me, but I'm going to say every bad thing that John's done in the meantime.
Yeah.
And through time, it's shifted. Like in, I can't remember the exact term in wrestling that they call it, but there's a turn at some point, or like a work of the crowd, to where someone shifts from like that heel personality to kind of like they call it face, or like a baby face, the hero.
Okay, yeah.
So he's kind of made that shift since he's gone up and won, became the double champ.
Yeah.
All of these things in that mix. I think that's kind of helped him. And he's remained organic within his process.
Right.
And then even through those times, like the Popeyes chicken commercial, like, and when Derek Lewis teased him for it, like, how do you not laugh at that?
Absolutely.
Like the way you disrespect that Popeyes chicken, with him like wiggling the drumsticks around with his shirt off, and then I don't remember. I think it was Dan Henderson brought in a thing of Popeyes to his to his locker room one time while he was in the middle of weight cut. And just set him there. He's like, I was gonna bring these here for you. Just gonna leave this here. Hilarious. And then you just hear DC in the back just cussing him out, like as Hendo's walking out of the room. But yeah, just little things like that. And for me, at least, keeping a gauge of like the public temperature to him, I think a big shift for DC's popularity wasn't even a fight of his own. It was a fight that he was commentating.
Thug Rose.
Yes, 100%. Thug Rose.
Oh God, you can't. You would immediately attach that memory of Thug Rose winning to DC because it made it that much more powerful. You're like, seriously though, Thug Rose, she fucking went out there and shocked the world.
Yep,
that's what we live for as fans.
I loved it.
Yeah,
loved it.
Every ounce of it. So great.
I got to meet DC out at Bellator this last year out in Oklahoma.
Sweet.
Yeah, his guy was who fought Joe Martin. So it was just kind of a crazy like crossing of paths of everything there. Like I mean, met TJ out there too. So you want to know the crazy sequence of events, Carmen? So I'm taking a picture with TJ Dillashaw, right?
Right.
And so like me and him out like our arm around each other, whatever, taking the quick picture, and Cortez is taking the picture. I don't know. Do you know Cortez?
Yeah.
So Cortez is taking the picture of us, and then coming right up and taps TJ on the shoulder as like me and him are taking the picture is DC.
Funny.
So it's like, holy shit! At that point in time, there was 3 UFC titles right there.
Right.
Because DC was still the double champ. That was before John had made his, had came back.
Right.
So he was still light and heavyweight, and then TJ was still at bantamweight at that time. So it was like, wow, like that's a lot of greatness right there with those two people. But yeah, I had met him at first in passing coming in through the doors because I guess he went to school at Oklahoma State,
right,
and so Cortez knows a lot of the guys that he trained with or has been in the gym with him at times. So we just kind of in passing said what's up right then and there. I was like, did that just happen? Like that I just casually like said what's up and had small talk with DC for a couple of minutes, and then
Almost starstruck.
we get back to the casino, and down there in the lobby just happened to, well, right as soon as we walk in, there was TJ standing off to one of the desks just by himself. And so just took my opportunity to say what's up and introduce myself and got the picture. Then DC comes right up at that point.
Yeah.
Just like, this is real life right now. And then went and got on the elevator, and Joe Schilling was with us.
Small world. And this MMA life is like, it just gets smaller, really.
It does.
And everyone
It really
knows
does.
everyone else.
Yeah.
I have to ask your opinion on TJ Dillashaw. What recently came out about him?
I think it's bullshit. You know what he did in that way. Where it really holds me up with TJ is the fact that he talked so much about how he was this super clean athlete and followed so much by the science and by the Sam Calavita recipe and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
And about how he
The cleanest way possible.
about how, on Rogan's show when he was on there, he bragged about how he felt so fresh all the time and how his cardio was just on another levels, and then about how, and he even mentioned, like, he said the word juicing at one point, like, I don't know if it was just like subconsciously or not, but there's a clip, if you look it up, of TJ Dillashaw where he mentions the word juice, and I think people just thought like juicing nutrients and all that sort of stuff. But the way that like how it starts like flowing into the rest of the conversation is like, this
Now,
might
like,
have been a
hindsight.
little bit of like a Freudian slip or a slip of the tongue right there. And then on the Ultimate Fighter, when it was him against Cody, Cody made multiple mentions about him, with being on gear, with showing American Top Team how to do it showing Team Alpha Male how to do it back in the day.
Right.
And then on their big like marquee photos, he got up on the little like ladder and he put like tape over TJ's nipples. But he said like, these aren't fit for TV. This guy has the worst set of gyno nips out there in MMA.
No. God.
Well, I'll be honest, Carm, I thought the TJ was going to pop for a long time.
Really?
I thought so ever since, for sure, definitely since the first Cody fight. Because, I mean, my dad works in strength and conditioning. I've worked in gyms before, been around a lot of people in the fitness industry. To be so shredded and lean.
All the time.
All the time. And then also to have only the only spot on your body where you have a little bit of visible like fatty tissue is like that lower nipple area.
Right.
That's usually indicative of something on the enhancement side.
Really?
It's called gynecomastia.
Okay.
It's an actual like medical prognosis, whatever, I don't know what the right word is, but people will have like surgeries to get rid of it. The Rock being one of them. Way back in the day, The Rock, when he was in pro wrestling, there was a time that so I did used to love pro wrestling as a kid, so that's why I remember this.
Okay.
But there was a time where he wrestled for a little while with like a shirt on. But I learned later in, when they talked about it in history, it was because he had surgery to remove that lower chest tissue, that fatty tissue that builds up from the change in your hormones.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Wow.
So that is also why a guy who, I don't wish bad upon someone in that way, but I think that I would not be surprised if Josh Emmett pops at some point.
Really?
It's a red flag to me every time, Carm, that I see somebody who looks like they're carved out of stone. But then... Like
Sage Northcutt? Or is that genetic?
No, I think that's a big factor of why he went to 1. I will dive into that. That's my take on
really?
that.
Okay.
But so I think that with somebody, with someone like Emmett, just like in his last fight, the guy was ripped to the bone everywhere except for his lower chest.
Interesting.
So that's just, and especially coming back from injury, is it because, did he take a little something to try to come back quicker? I don't know. It's pure speculation. It's just the eye test to me whenever I see someone who has that look. And it's also a fairly widely known thing within the fitness industry. You see someone who has that extra tissue down there.
Wow, that is interesting.
Yep.
Crazy. So, what a red flag.
yeah, to me, it's a red flag right
I
away.
can't even believe that, honestly, when because I don't look for stuff like that, perhaps, or I'm just not knowledgeable enough to look for it. I was blown away. I was like, there is no way this is real, because I was fooled by, I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, you know, and Joe Rogan really is a buddy of his and a fan, of course, and for that to go down the way it did, I mean, props to him for really putting that video out there and just owning up to it, but he would have never done that if he hadn't have gotten caught.
No.
And
No.
like, how has he not gotten caught before this?
That's what Dana's statement was.
Straight up.
Was that he was pissed off. Like, he was extremely pissed with USADA because he said, wait a minute, I'm paying you motherfuckers this much and you're not testing for APO every time?
Every time. Like, John Jones gets a picogram or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And once again, added to why I don't ever put too much of a stock into what Dana says, where he said, I'm never going to headline or put John Jones as the main event again.
Right.
But then he does, and then controversy happens again, and he moves the entire card for him.
Right.
So I don't believe half of what, like, I love Dana, don't get me wrong. I think Dana is very great for the sport. But some of those little claims like that, especially like knee-jerk ones, I don't ever put too much stock into that way.
Yeah.
But, you know, to kind of circle back with Sage, I think that, you know, like I said, this is just my tinfoil hat, but the kid can make a lot more money in the fitness world than he can in fighting.
It's true.
In my, you know, and I just think this because I don't see him as a championship level contender.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because he's still so young, because he is very young still.
Yeah.
But from just what I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he has that trajectory of having UFC gold put around
For
his
sure.
waist.
And the dedication and the like, being active as a fighter in general. That's how you get better.
Right. And so for someone like him, hey, that is a huge piece to add to his presence in the fitness world, though, was that, hey, he's this former UFC fighter. He's still fighting overseas, all of that, but you can have help over there.
Yeah.
You can have your laundry list of Brazilian supplements that nobody's going to give a fuck about in one.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of the matter. I think that could be a very big aspect in it, because to maintain the level of fitness that you have to be in some of those like Labrada lead body shots, or, you know, those promo things that he's a part of.
Right.
I find it very hard to, just like you said, to maintain that all the time in a natural
Every
fashion.
day, there's no way. I know he's young, but
And especially the way that he's gained weight so fast. I understand that you can do it very methodically with science, but to have retained or to have gained that much lean mass without adding any sort of fat, it's very, very hard to do. And
Yeah.
that's for anybody who's out there trying to do it. That's for people who are out there dedicating their entire life to doing this in the
Yes.
fitness world.
for sure.
So to say that he's maintained being ripped to the bone the entire time and will continue to do so as he's gotten bigger, because didn't he started off at 55?
Yeah, he I think he started off at 55 and then
And he's within the last, every year he's just getting bigger and bigger.
right.
I don't know.
I know. And his sister,
That
that's
skeptical hippo eyes to his natural jump in weight class.
right. His sister is also an MMA fighter.
Right.
And she's shredded, but not to like his level, you know.
Right.
Like of course genetics play a role, but it only goes so far.
Right. And I don't know, like, maybe it's just the fact that I have already had this like preconceived bias toward it, or thought that it's like confirmation bias potentially for me, but I feel like his jaw's gotten a little blockier,
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
which sometimes is also indicative of extra or heightened testosterone levels. You know, you see a lot of guys within the bodybuilding world, you know, Arnold has a block jaw to Brock Lesnar has a block jaw. Alistair Overeem, another one who's had physical characteristics that have been changed from having enhancement.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my soapbox rant for Sage
No,
North Cut.
I hear
but
you.
I think that there might be some validity to it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it is or not, who knows?
You
But
never know, but
that's, like I say,
evidence is
that's
there.
my little conspiracy
Take it or leave
theory.
it.
Well, just because I say this in the sense of, it's not like, he had a rough start in the UFC, but he had been winning fights his last few fights.
Right, for sure.
So it's not like he ended on a sour note, or he didn't let his contract expire from going on a skid, or he wasn't cut either. He left as a free agent.
Yeah.
So, like I say, to me, the pinnacle is the UFC. If you really are, if that's what your priority is being or making your mark as the best fighter in the world in your weight class.
Yeah.
That's where you go.
It's regarded as the best.
Right. Doesn't mean that there's not other great organizations and promotions.
Right.
Because there are. But do people really, I mean, like, out there in the world, you're going to see UFC champion, one fighting championship, Bellator champion. It could be all the same weight class, but in terms of prestige level and where people are holding you.
Yes.
What do you think? Do people obviously will probably put the UFC on that highest pedestal?
Absolutely.
Am I wrong?
Absolutely. I mean, it is pretty cool to see how one championship is gaining momentum, because we're not on the other side of the world, so we don't really know how much of an impact it's having on MMA in general. The time it comes on is kind of crazy. It's like, what, it comes on at like 2 a.m. or something like that?
Something insane that way.
But I mean, it makes sense, because over there it's the other side of the world, and it was pretty remarkable for Mighty Mouse to just, say, fuck it. I know I'm the best.
Right.
Might as well make some more money doing the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, I don't know what is going to happen to that division in the UFC, and will one championship take that over?
I think
And how well do they pay,
Henry completely threw a monkey wrench in the UFC's game plan.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
true.
if TJ would have won that fight, they would have absorbed that division up, and they'd have basically said, all right, TJ became champ.
Right.
We're moving on from this.
Yeah.
But what would have really been a crazy thing is if he did, say he does win, and the UFC immediately goes ahead and, cuts ties with that division, but then he pops.
Right.
What would have happened then?
Yeah.
But what I find crazy too is he was geared up, and he still got beat like that.
Karma's a bitch, Buddha always said there are 3 things that cannot long be hidden from the world, and that is the sun, the moon, and the truth. And the truth will always come out, whether it's today or tomorrow or freaking 50 years from now in a book somewhere you'll read it. I mean, especially with today's world and electronics.
Yeah.
I mean, it freaks me out for sure.
No, you're
the way
right.
we're headed.
There's a lot. And that's an entire conversation of its own, the way that technology has advanced way too fast for what the people who are programming it can even control.
Yeah. Have you been to the UFC Performance Institute?
I have.
Yeah, I really want to see what it's like over there.
Yeah. I would love to see it, inside and they're building a new facility.
Really?
Yes, so I don't know where exactly it is in relation to where the current one is. But yeah, Dana was talking about it and before this last fight.
Right.
And he was saying about how it's about to be a game changer, state-of-the-art facility, huge, monstrous. So I don't know. I mean, I would love to see what they have.
Yeah.
Or what they continue to bring in. Because I just look at it now like, Carm, what are these little kids that are out here on this mat? What are they going to be like in 10 years if they stick with it?
Yeah.
Because I'll say this, like, kids jiu-jitsu programs where I grew up weren't a thing.
Right. And now it's popping.
And now it's a very popular deal. So,
I mean, especially in Denver itself.
Right.
Golly,
So
I feel like they're on every corner.
All of, where is the growth going to be in another 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, I already feel like we're modern day gladiators.
Right.
Are you going to add weapons into it, or what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some crazy promotions out there that do that.
Right. And the bare knuckle?
Yep. Well, then you have bare knuckle. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know how I feel about it. I really don't. It's too raw for me, maybe.
I'm in the air. Like, I'll be honest. I'm as much of a guy as you can be in some ways. Like, I'll watch 2 squirrels fight outside on the sidewalk, but you know.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
But I also like so I put up a picture on my Instagram today of this old hockey goalie from like the 60s who it just looked like, Frankenstein face all across the board.
Right.
Just
I saw
zipped
that.
all. But I almost feel like that's almost what Jason Knight's face looked like after one bare knuckle fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's a definitely a gory thing. But what the fighters said, what Artem and Jason Knight both said is that they didn't feel like a cognitive effect to it, if you will.
Okay.
Like they didn't feel like like yes, they were cut up just based off of the like the surface and the tension from the knuckles,
Mm-hmm.
but because there wasn't the extra weight from the gloves pounding on, or there wasn't the extra power that you could put behind some punches in that way,
Right.
that they didn't feel the lumps to the head as much.
Right.
I don't know if that necessarily
Well,
is accurate scientifically speaking,
Yeah.
but I mean, there might be some. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe you can get a little bit more reckless when you're throwing with 10 and 12 ounce boxing gloves in a fight than you would with just your bare knuckles. You're gonna have to focus on turning it over and being more precise and accurate so you don't break your hand. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
And did it only get that much popularity because of how gory it was? And were they really technical fighters, or were they just scrappers? At the end of the day.
yeah, they just went out there and brawled.
Right.
Those two did,
exactly.
yeah.
And it's
I did like
just
watching
boxing.
the Beck Rawlings fight though.
Okay.
Like I thought that she was very technical with the bare knuckle aspect, and I think that's kind of been a good lane for her to go
Right.
post UFC.
Mm-hmm.
It's because she was kind of that bad girl, like rebel image as it is.
Mhm.
Bare knuckle kind of fits that niche perfectly. For her to go there and become like the first female bare knuckle champion, like to be the queen of that promotion, I think that fits her very well.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, absolutely.
I can understand where it's a tough sell for some. And I don't ever foresee it being like a big deal the way that the UFC is.
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna be
agree.
it's gonna be a much more niche program.
I agree.
Just like I think Karate Combat,
Okay, yeah.
Boss Ruben's promotion.
Mhm.
I still like watching that, but it's not. There's a lot of limitations from what it would be for
There's
like
just
true
so much out there. Muay Thai, I love watching Muay Thai.
Uh-huh. There's a lot of people out there who don't like watching Muay Thai or don't
Right.
like Letway or stuff along those lines because of the gore again.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, call me desensitized, call me brutal or whatever you want, if you will. But go figure. I have an entire show in business who covers MMA and fighting for that matter. So go figure. I like it.
Yeah.
But it's not a hard sell for me, but I understand where it can be,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think about every day just what I plan on doing after fighting. It's something that really dawns on me because you see people like DC going into commentating.
Right.
And they really fall into that nicely. Brendan Schaub just goes in comedy,
Right.
slides right in just because he loves it as well. Mark said something one time that, when you get good at one thing, you can get good at multiple things. If you're good at something, you get good at anything.
Mm-hmm.
And boils down to just dedication
Oh yeah.
and passion.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I really love acting. And I love choreography, right? So
Okay.
maybe doing my own stunt doubling.
Hell yeah.
I think that would be really fun.
That would be badass.
It'd be a good time.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I could.
yeah.
I don't think I'll ever stop training jiu-jitsu
Mm-hmm.
because there's always something to learn. And it's addicting in that way.
No, I could totally understand that. I mean, there's reasons why masters are out there. That
Mhm.
very few people ever get to that like coral belt, but
Right.
there are a couple that have been out there.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly within the Gracies, but
Right.
it's something that you can always continue to improve. I think that's what that is an example of.
Mm-hmm.
You can always learn and always improve.
Yeah.
So as we just kind of start to transition out of this thing, because we've been talking for a little bit
Yes.
now, Carmen, is there
We have.
anything out there that you maybe haven't mentioned to the viewers or your fans that you want to get out there?
No, just learn to love yourself, and everything else will fall into place.
Positive as always. You know, how can you not feel better after that? You know. How?
And watch my fight. May 3rd, Vail, Colorado. I was born and raised there. I worked really hard for this fight, and I'm ready to showcase what I have.
Absolutely.
And I'm ready to go to war with my teammates, you know.
Oh yeah.
That camaraderie is like nothing else.
Well,
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you for taking the time.
Seriously.
I really, really appreciate it. You know, for everybody out there, please make sure that you follow along with Carm the Charm. But make sure that if you're in the area, come out to Vail, show your support. Is your fight going to be on the Access TV portion? Do you know?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably
okay.
not.
So, but there's going to be videos. Everybody's going to be posting all over online. So make sure that you keep in mind what that follow handle is so that you can stay up to date on Carm's progress. Now, for us, if you want to go and check us out as far as our merchandise with comments from the Peanut Gallery, that is at www.cftpg.com. Give us a like and follow on social media. You can search us at Comments from the Peanut Gallery on Instagram and on Facebook. On Twitter, give us a follow at Peanut Podcast. You can stream us on any DSP platform that's out there. That is going to include iTunes, YouTube, Google Play Music, Stitcher. We're going to be everywhere. So thank you very much again, Carm. I really appreciate you taking the time. Until next time.
Sleepless nights I lay awake, thinking about the future while you lie in bed. I'm getting cake, rolling loud Buddha. They ain't enough hours in the day to do what I'm doing. Make felony music so criminals can't get high to it. We ride to it and fly through the sky, moving at light speed, so don't blink, you might lose this spaceship. We ride in that fly shit. You couldn't try this way of living, you die quick. No chance of sleep, I'm wide awake on this night, rolling up my loud in hopes it'll help lower my eyes. Dilated, now I'm faded, mouth real dry. See some Hennessy to wet my tongue, feel real nice. Looking for a baddie, come to bed with me, open the thighs. Let her rub my back as I'm blowing pack, finish the night. Roll big trees, fat sticks, that's a lot of lumber. Sipping mixed drinks, blowing sweet till I achieve slumber. Yeah.